Today we are brewing a gluten-free Belgian white ale. Let's go ahead and get to it because the water's boiling and we're ready to brew. So let's quickly go over the ingredients and then we'll get to brewing here. So for this I'm going to use a gluten-free grain, which is sorghum. And I got sorghum syrup here. I've got 3.3 pounds. We're going to use a little bit of orange peel here. So a traditional white ale calls for some spices, and they use a lot of times orange peel and coriander. Now you can substitute other spices. I don't really care for coriander, so I'm going to omit the coriander, but I will use some orange peel here. Then we've got, these are Tettnanger hops. So I couldn't find, the recipe calls for Tannentower hops, however I couldn't find those, but I found another low alpha acid hop which will work for this beer. This beer isn't going to be really hoppy, it's really low in alpha acid, so you don't look for a really big alpha acid hop in this one. So this is only 3.1% alpha acid. For the yeast, we're just going to use a high performance ale yeast. This is Nottingham ale yeast, and that's it as far as the ingredients goes. So let's go ahead and get to brewing here. And then this recipe did come out of this gluten-free book that I got online. So during this process you'll hear me mention a lot of things, and I'll put everything in the description of this video. If you want to find it later, you can do so in the description. So we got a nice rolling boil here. Let's go ahead and crack open the syrup and get it in there. Nice caramel color, and it tastes really sweet. So into the pot we go. All right, so at this point, there's still a lot of syrup left in the canister here. So what I do is I just take some hot water here out of the kettle, and I'll get it into the jug here. And then we're going to swirl it around, just soften that syrup up so we can get more of it out there. You can also put the lid on and shake it up. You do want to be careful here because this is hot boiling water in there. And we'll just get that shaken up. But I'll do this a few more times to get that going. So I didn't mention it, but this is an extract brew. And for this I have, the final volume is going to be about 3.5 gallons. So in my kettle here I've got 2 gallons of water. That looks pretty good there. So there we go. We're all in with the sorghum syrup. I'm going to wait until it comes up to a boil. At that point, we'll do our first addition of hops. It's going to be a 60-minute boil. The first addition of hops is going to be a 1/2 ounce. Total addition is going to be this whole 1 ounce bag of hops. So we're going to do a 1/2 ounce now, and then at the end of the boil, we'll do another 1/2 ounce right before flame out. There we go. It has come to a rolling boil, and now I'm going to add 1/2 ounce of hops. Now, in this case, I won't measure. You can if you want to, if you're worried about it. However, with only the total amount being a 1 ounce bag, I'm just going to pour out about half of this into my bag and eyeball it. I know, it's like the wild, wild west around here. So that's half the hops there, and we'll just dunk them in there like a tea bag. Now at this point you want to be careful. This is where I get a lot of that rolling boil where the sugar really starts to get excited and I might get some boil over. So just keep an eye on it and get ready with your spoon here to stir if you need to. There we go. I'll just agitate the bag here a little bit, the hot bag, just to get everything saturated so I know it's in there in the boil. So what I do is I wrap the string here around the handle of my kettle. And you don't have to tie a knot, I just wrap it around there. And that does a really good job holding it on there. So there we go, 60 minutes or 45 minutes here. Then we're going to come back and add the rest of the hops and then the orange peel. So put your feet up, I'll be right back. It's been 45 minutes, so let's go ahead and add another hop addition here. Simply grab your grain bag or your hop bag, open it up, be careful, it's hot. And then I'll just pour these in there. Just like that. Again, dip it in there just like a tea bag there. Get it all mixed up well. And then I also want to put in the orange peel at this point as well. So for this, they dried them up for me already, and it's just the orange peel. You get a lot of the oils and the flavor from the actual peel of the fruit, the citrus fruit. So that's why they use the peels. Nice. So for this, I'm just going to use about a quarter of this bag, so that would be about a tablespoon. That's what you're shooting for if you were doing this, trying to recreate this. And it's really something that you can play with and experiment with. A little bit more, a little bit less, however you like it at the end flavor. There we go. So that's that. Wrap the string around again. So there we go. That'll go another 10 minutes and then we'll be done. We'll turn it off. We'll get it cooled down. We'll pitch the yeast. We'll let it ferment. We are all but done here. All I got to do is turn everything off, start cooling it down. Now when I take out my hops bag, what I like to do is take my spoon here and get it under the hop bag and just let the hop bag droop over the spoon, and that creates some space there and it allows most of your hot wort there to drip off around the spoon there. Now what I want to do is check the gravity. So I'm just going to steal a little bit of the hot wort here. I get it on a dish or a plate or a cup or whatever you have, it's handy. We'll set that aside here and let it cool down a little bit. So to use the refractometer, you just take a little bit of your wort, you put it on the lens, and then you shut the lid and you tap it. What you're going to do is tap out the bubbles. So if you saw before, there were some white bubbles there, and then you just keep tapping it out till you get most of the bubbles out. There we go. So the bubbles are out there. You can give it a look here. See what kind of gravity you're working with here. So right now it's at 1.065, which is good because we're going to add some water to this. So when I add water, I like to use clean filtered water. I bought this at the grocery store. It's been in the refrigerator, so it's cooled down. And I'm going to add the cold water to the hot wort, bring down the temperature a little bit faster so that we can get the yeast in there and get it brewing. So at this point, this is a 4-gallon kettle. So I'm going to fill it up to about 3 gallons. Now I've been brewing a lot, so I know kind of where it's at as far as the volume is concerned. If you haven't done this a lot, what you would prefer to do now is put this in an ice bath, cool it down, then pitch it into a fermenter, and then go ahead and add the water at that point, which would mean you'd just be a lot more accurate with adding the water. So I'm just going to go right in here. And so this is a gallon of water. This is a 4-gallon vessel. We started with about 2 gallons for the boil. We boiled some off. We probably ended up with close to 2 gallons there. So this is probably just going to be just shy of 3 gallons if I had to guess here, which is what we're shooting for as far as the final volume. I'll get that stirred around. Very nice. We're at about 1.045, which will make a 3.5–4% beer, which is good with me. And that's going to be it. So we'll just put this in the fermenter, pitch the yeast, and let it do its thing for 2 weeks. And then we'll get it bottled, and I'll post a final tasting here. So that's it as far as gluten-free beer. Now, I've been experimenting with this and drinking some gluten-free beers, and they're actually really good. Gluten-free is kind of, I don't want to say trendy. A lot of people do it because they have a problem. A lot of people with autoimmune diseases or celiac disease, even diabetes, the science is showing that avoiding gluten can be very beneficial to people with some type of autoimmune disease. So gluten-free beer doesn't have to be bad. It can be really good. So if you see a gluten-free beer out there, go ahead and give it a try. Try experimenting with some of this stuff. I personally like to avoid the ones with lots of adjuncts in them. So read the ingredients. I've been fooled a few times where most of them, they basically just put a bunch of fruit in it or a bunch of citrus like lime or lemons, and then I can't really taste or experience the beer itself. So this beer, what it's going to turn out, it's going to be the hops are going to be present. You're going to get some of that bitterness and the orange flavor on the back end, but it's not going to be an overpowered fruity type of beer. You're really going to be able to enjoy the hops and the sorghum grain there. And it's not a bad grain. It actually tastes really good, similar to more of like a Pilsner style. And that's kind of the flavor that I pick up when I'm drinking a beer that's gluten-free made from sorghum syrup. So there you go. If you want to stick around and find out how this beer turns out, I will post that as soon as it's done, and it will be in the description of this video. If you'd like to, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel to get the updates. My name is Drew Smith. I'll see you next time.